again. Lovelace has been on our show, that he is a former U.S. Assistant Attorney General. And Terry Lovelace was abducted in the mid-'70s, and he has an implant in his leg. Again, they have showed up under x-rays. I'm just wondering why you haven't, had any x-rays done to see, if you have been implanted, if you have these memories and all this stuff and you have marks. I certainly would check to see if you've been implanted.
It really was never that important to me because I already knew what I was experiencing was real. And, I guess if you think about it, going to get an x-ray is, you've got medical expense, you got to pay for it, you got to take time and go do it, and you got to explain to them why you want to do it. And, I have a really busy life, and it just never was important enough for me to do it. It's been happening over the years, and I just didn't do it. Maybe I would do it now. I don't know, but probably I wouldn't. What good would it do? Because if I had it removed, they just put another one in if they want to do it. Now I have something in the bottom of my, below my bone of where my lower teeth are. And Ray, I told you this, and I actually spoke recently with Daryl about this. I've got like 2 BB ball size things. Like I can feel it in there. I can move them around. So next time I go to the dentist, I'm going to ask them about it. So I think they're going to do x-rays next time. But I wanted to actually, one of your listeners, I'm on your website, and James asked if they asked my parents if they could take me. And, my parents never reported anything like that to me. But my mother told me that when I was a kid, they used to always find me outside in the middle of the night in my pajamas and, even with the door locked from the inside. And she said they would ask me, I think I was pretty little at the time because I don't remember this, but that they would, ask what are you doing outside? And I would say, like, I was going to the bathroom. And, that makes no sense, does it? With the door locked from the inside. And so, those are just, kind of chalk it up as, that's really strange, just add it to the list of strange things. But I had an unusual childhood. It wasn't a great childhood. And my father really wasn't around. He left the family. Well, I think I was 12, but he was still not around when I was littler all the time. And my mom was sick all the time. So, I was on my own actually quite a lot. And my brother, had his own issues, and we weren't very close either.
Now, Victoria, do you have any children?
I do. I have one child, but that's something I don't talk about.
Okay. The reason why I'm just asking,
she's never expressed anything.
Okay, I was just kind of curious if they've had any strange things, thoughts, or encounters or emotional, things like what you had, because a lot of times that falls in a family,
Yes, and my grandson has expressed some stories, some things. And I wrote about those in the book, and some pretty interesting things that he has reported over the years, and so I just leave that door open if he wants to talk about them in the future. But I certainly don't. I'm not pegging him on having to talk about it. But Ray did talk with him, and some of his stories are in the book, and so I just don't know. So like I said, my dad saw that UFO when I was a kid. My brother and I never really talked about it. We weren't really that close, and I moved away when I was pretty young from Ohio. And so I just, I wish I had the opportunity, at this point to maybe ask a little more about it, but that time has passed.
Now, I know James wants to ask a couple questions. James, go ahead.
Victoria, when was the last time that you were taken?
Well, and again, remember, I don't have any conscious memories. But I think, Ray, when did you come out to interview me? Was that 2018 or 17? And I literally had gotten these triangular marks like within a week or so before Ray came.
Well, we kicked it off in. We kicked it off in 2016 is when we decided that we would start discussing the situation, and then I think I was out in 2017 for the first set of interviews.
And so my indication that something happened was, generally waking with marks or bruises. I've had 3 fingerprint bruises on both my arm and on my inner thigh, and I certainly know that it was no one else who did that. I've gone through long periods of time of being single in my life, and so that was a period of time when those, and so in fact, I was watching it was a Stephen King called Taken, and I had never seen it before, and I was watching it recently, like in the past 3 or 4 months, and literally in one of the very early scenes is this guy with these 3 fingerprint bruises on his arm, almost exactly like mine were, weren't they, Ray? Because I sent them to Ray right away.
Yeah, your evidence is very consistent with what has been reported through the decades and documented, by some of the giants in the field, like Hopkins and Smith and others. So that's the interesting part. There's really nothing that's off the core story of what hasn't been heard before. So there's a consistency there, but where Victoria's story differs is that in the documentation. Most people will have a very kind of scattered documentation, and the evidence in her case is extremely strong.
Well, let me ask you this, Victoria. Why do you think after they're done, with their abduction with you, why do you think they erased your memory where you can't remember?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's too terrifying. I mean, I've worked with other contactees who they do have conscious memories. Now, when Yvonne was regressing me in my 4th regression, she kept asking me if I had been introduced to the children or been taken to any children, and I just couldn't get there, and she kept trying to get me to go deeper and deeper, but she just believes that the screen memories or the erasing of the memories is so deep that I just haven't gotten there yet. But I had a conscious experience that was probably one of the closest experiences I had to really knowing that I was being taken, so to speak. I wasn't taken. I had an experience, and I was. This was. It was May or June of. I can't remember the year now. It's interesting when I chronicled all this to Ray. My memories started actually fading, and they've been pretty darn strong. But a lot of this was happening in the, like 2003 until like 2014 or 15. And so it was kind of there's some active years there that maybe I was just paying more attention. I don't know. But I was lying in bed, and I had woken up like around 1:30 in the morning and went to the bathroom, came back, got back in bed, and I couldn't go back to sleep right away. And I turned on the radio. I think on my computer was next to my bed or something, and I started listening to something on the computer. When a short time later, so I don't have air. I live in the foothills, and I don't have air conditioning in my house, and so I keep the window open, and I have a fan going usually. And I had a fan going on the floor in my room, and I'm lying there and listening to the show, and all of a sudden the fan started almost like it was winding up and then going back down, almost like a wave. It would go woo, woo, and it would go back down, and I could almost feel like an energetic wave, and it was like pushing towards me and then going back. And I thought, well, that's really strange that my fan is doing that. And then all of a sudden, and I was awake for this. My entire body started like vibrating, shaking. And I said to myself, I mean, this all happens really quick in your head, but I said to myself, because I wear like night patches, blinders when I sleep, and I had those on, and I started vibrating, and I said to myself, and I felt like a presence in the room, and I said to myself, Victoria, you want to have a conscious experience, look under this blinder. And then the other Victoria said, oh, no, don't do that. That's too scary. And I didn't do that. And so, but I knew I was awake, and so I said and again, this all happened really fast, and I said to myself, okay, you know you're awake, make a sound and see if your voice shakes. So I went like, but it was like, because I was really shaking. And then nobody pushed me, nobody pulled me, but my entire body, like moved catty-corner down my bed, like a few inches, several inches. And the next thing I knew, I could see some light coming in from under my night blinders, and I had no idea what happened. But I remembered that I was shaking and vibrating the night before, and that I had moved, and that my fan did that crazy thing. I mean, I remembered that because I was awake, and it was like, I think it was like 5:30 when I looked at the clock. So it probably would have been, if I went to the restroom at 1:30 and was listening to that, whatever the radio show I was listening to for maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, it probably would have been like 2:15 to 2:30, and then the next thing I knew, it was like, I want to say 5:29, but it was like right around 5:30 a.m., and it was just, seemed like it was just starting to get light enough that I could, see some lightness. And that's all I remembered. And so in my third regression with Barbara.
Okay, now we got to jump in. I got to jump in there. We got to go on break. So we're going to take about an 8-minute break as we have our 3-minute break for advertising. And then we have a newscast, which James does about Earth changes and the paranormal. So just stay tuned, and we'll be back.
Self-centered bent was his dark side lament, with a focus on hypnotize and spell. He memorized laws to help sharpen his claws for a future for which he was bent. The time would surely come when for office he would run and claim he was just heaven sent.
Another politician has just taken center stage. He tells all the people that he loves them so. He comes on like a sage, says with him they should engage. A false prophet selling endless empty prose.
He stepped over dead bodies on his climb to the top. The highest post was his aspiration. But he forgot to read the fine print in the contract that he signed, which caused a U-turn to his final destination. He continued on his pathway of destruction and decay, never thinking that his wicked life would end. He never did take stock that the devil is not mocked, and all those broken fences will not mend.
Another politician has just taken center stage. He tells all the people that he loves them so. He comes on like a sage, says with him they should engage. A false prophet selling endless empty prose. He feels no lament for the lives that he spent. A jackal who thinks he can't be touched. But there will come a day when the devil's